Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Legend. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Friday, January 17th, 2025. We lost a legend yesterday when Bob Uecker passed away at the age of 90. Bob Uecker was one of the most important figures in my baseball life. I was able to meet him. He's a Milwaukeean, and I'm a Milwaukeean. And my life started when I was 18 years old, started dating my future now ex, but always the mother of my children, such an important person in my life story. Her father was the doctor for the Brewers. And so I was able as a teenager to meet Bud Selig, which was really cool when he was the owner of the Brewers. So I've known him, and I was able to meet Bob Uecker as a teenager. And this was just a few years before Bob Uecker was in the movie Major League. And I was a teenager meeting this broadcaster, knowing that I was going to be a lawyer or be a district attorney or be in business. I had no thought that I would have a career in baseball. And the years passed through college and through law school, and I continued to know Bob Uecker only as a son-in-law of the team doctor, of someone who Bob Uecker loved very much. So by transitive property of family and closeness and relationship, I was able to build a relationship, but it was very much, oh, you're the kid. In 1999, when I started in baseball, one of the things that excited me the most was to talk to Bob Uecker as president of a team. The first time that the Brewers played the Expos in 2000, every time any of my teams went to Milwaukee, I made the trip, of course, and Bob Uecker was traveling with the Brewers as the voice of the Brewers, having become very famous always as not just an announcer, Hall of Famer, but in addition, commercial pitchman, actor, sitcom actor, Mr. Belvedere. The first time he saw me and knew that I was running a baseball team, he came up to me, and I was in the media floor, in the media room, and I remember this was so great for my ego. He looked at me and he said, "I don't care who you are, David, you're still the doc's son-in-law." He just would not ever let me think that, oh, you're the big-time president of a team. And he was always so jocular. And for the next 17 years, we would spend time at least twice a year, but sometimes more, some years more than that. And he would regale me with stories and perspective. And the reason why he would talk to me about his stories, his baseball stories, we talk about the current teams, current players, players of the past. He wanted me to see if I would run the team in a certain way that would take into account history and present and future, when most executives are only interested in future. Many of them don't care about the present, certainly don't care about the past. And Bob Uecker was singularly focused on talking to me about the way baseball was, trying to explain not the traditions, just about player evaluation, about little nuances of the game that as a team president would make me better at my job. After we won the World Series in 2003, Bob Uecker called me on the phone and was wondering, while congratulating, wondering whether any of his tidbits of the previous 3 years, and he did it in the most hilarious way, like, oh, now you won the World Series. You're still the son-in-law of the doc. And by the way, is it because of all the great things I told you and we had such a great laugh about it? I'm going to miss him. The fact is, he lived a great life. I don't think anyone is going to say when you pass away at 90 years old that you didn't have a good run. Of course, every good run comes to an end. That's the definition of a run. You just don't know when your run comes to an end. Bob Uecker would not tell you that he had a bad run. He would tell you he had a fortunate, great life. But we all would want one more day, one more time, one more moment. At least I do. I will miss you, Bob Uecker, and I appreciate you. And you don't realize, I think you'd have the ability to hear this show, because I know in later years when we spoke, you were a fan of Nothing Personal. That if you're by chance have a way, and I'm not exactly sure how because we can't measure the audience, and going into free agency, I'd like to be able to measure this audience. But just in case you're able to hear this, thank you, Bob. I love you. What a weekend we have ahead of us. The show goes on. The world continues to twirl on its axis. What a football weekend. We've got pro football playoffs. We have the college football championship. Some people like the divisional round as their favorite weekend. It's so funny. To me, the wild card weekend is my favorite because you get 6 games. The divisional round, I'm in. The stakes are higher. You got 4 games, so you can say each game is 1 quarter as though there were only like 1 Monday night game. So I always do that math. Like at halftime of the first game of the divisional round, I say, oh, it's only the first quarter. First quarter, you're all excited. You have so much in front of you. One of the games ends. You're like, all right, it's the end of the quarter. It's funny. Then, of course, you have the championship weekend where there's only 2 games. So at the end of the first game, you say, oh, it's like halftime. And people love that day, but that's only a day. It's not a football weekend. It's a football Sunday coming up next week from Sunday. I think we've got the biggest game of the playoffs coming up on Sunday with the Ravens and the Bills playing. Think about, from an NFL standpoint, they're guaranteeing that either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson makes it to the AFC Championship, not both. In an ideal world, you have Mahomes Jackson or Mahomes Allen in the AFC Championship, because then you're guaranteeing one of Mahomes Jackson Allen in the Super Bowl. And I don't mean to poo-poo Stroud. I just mean to say that from the NFL business perspective, it is much more about Mahomes Jackson Allen. Likely not in that order. Certainly Mahomes. The thing about the Jackson-Allen game on Sunday, the Ravens-Bills game, forget the weather, forget the location. It's in Buffalo. It's pretty much a pick'em game. It's a legacy game, and I don't use that word lightly. Think about this. Josh Allen, really, he and Jackson are going to be 1-2 in the MVP. I think it'll be Jackson-Allen. There are people who think it'll be Allen-Jackson. Whichever it will be, those will be 1-2, no question. If the Ravens beat the Bills the way they did in week 4 when they crushed them 35-10, that will mean that Josh Allen will not have led his team to the AFC Championship since 2020. That's no longer an asterisk. That is a career-defining stat, that the Buffalo Bills have not been to a championship game under Josh Allen in 5 years. If Lamar Jackson makes it to the championship game, he can avenge, if you think about it, you remember he lost in the AFC Championship game last year to the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson gets to continue a redemption tour, redemption from losing to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. It would be his dream to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship this year as the next step to him having his first Super Bowl appearance. Both of those quarterbacks have only played in one AFC Championship, so one of them will get his second. Can't wait to watch it. The question is, are the other games a big enough draw to stop the league from its ratings bleeding? You've got the Eagles-Rams, and it's going to be very cold. Some people are thinking the Rams have a chance to actually make it to the Super Bowl in the NFC, ignoring the fact that the Lions are likely the best team. The Lions are going to play a rookie quarterback who doesn't seem to lose very often, Jaden Daniels. Every one of these games is interesting. There's still no Cowboys, which is a problem for ratings. You read a lot about the wild card weekend ratings being down almost 10% from last year and people wondering why that is. And then you see that it's Cowboys related. You see that the Chiefs didn't play in the wild card round, and that has an impact. Roger Goodell does not spend 1 minute of his life looking at the downtick in ratings and saying to himself, oh, we have a problem with our game. We better start a European league. We really need to do something. No, Roger Goodell just dismisses it, flicks it off his shoulder, and says, wait till you see next weekend, which he means this weekend. Wait till you see the championship weekend. He wants Lions, Chiefs. He wants Rams, not Eagles. And my guess is if you asked him and you injected him with truth serum, he would say he wants the Bills. And I would say that we should prove him wrong. And when the Ravens win, that the Ravens will draw the kind of numbers that they're deserving of because they could be the best team in football. The other story that we're watching very closely this weekend is the Tom Brady story. And it shouldn't be about an announcer at all. But Tom Brady, as you know, it's always about him. Can you imagine that we are 2 days away? Well, strike that. We are 1 day away. Lions Commanders are tomorrow, aren't they, Coca? I think they're the Saturday game. One of the two Saturday games. Tom Brady's agent. I can't hear you, Coca, if you answer, by the way. It's Saturday night. Thank you. Tom Brady's agent, Don Yee, was talking to Sports Business Journal and decided to make headlines. He's the announcer. Yeah, it's true he's running the Raiders and trying to hire Ben Johnson as coach, but let's hold that off for 1 second. Yeah, Ben Johnson. Yeah, you know him because he's a coordinator with the Lions. But anyway, you think that this is the right time for Don Yee to go public and say, by the way, just so you're all clear, Tom Brady's not leaving Fox. He has no plans to leave after one or any other season. He calls Sports Business Journal and says, Tom has had a tremendous amount of fun working with Fox this year, and he's really excited about the future with Fox and his growth on their team. This year was the first year of a long relationship. Why now? Do you think that there's a possibility? I just want you to ponder this, because it's not a coincidence that Don Yee speaks to SBJ yesterday. Everything's done with a purpose, but it's hidden from you. Do you think that all the noise surrounding Tom Brady and the conflict of interest as he's about to call the Lions game because he's heading the Raiders search and the Raiders have pinpointed Ben Johnson, and the concern of the conflict of interest, the concern of his ability to be neutral? Do you think it's a coincidence that all these articles are being written about Tom Brady's ability to call games, and Fox has the Super Bowl this year, and Tom Brady is going to be calling the Super Bowl? Do you think that the NFL and Fox want to make sure that the story is not about Tom Brady and about any sort of conflict with him running the Raiders? Because there's going to be no announcement during this run to the Super Bowl of Tom Brady leaving Fox or getting out of the booth, or Olsen getting the number one job back, or Brady somehow becoming a decision maker by name in addition to what he is now, which is by function within the Raiders. There's no way an announcement could be done now or would be done now, because he'd have to leave the booth immediately. They don't want Brady leaving the booth. They want him to finish the run to the Super Bowl. So Don Yee stands up and says, hey, I just so you know, stop talking about this. He's with Fox, loves it, staying. I rolled my eyes. I rolled my eyes because he's so full of it that when they look like they were like building up with feces. What would be the reason It's like a player when you sign him to a long-term deal. I want to hear from Juan Soto after year one of his 15-year deal with the Mets, good or bad. Here's what I want Juan Soto to stand up and say in the offseason, because I know the media does this with all long-term deals. Hey, you thinking of coming back next year? What do you think a player says? I got a contract. Obviously, Tom Brady's in the middle of a 10-year Fox deal. It's been 1 year. You think that it's newsworthy? Hi, I'm coming back. Yeah, really? Me think he doth protest too much. Coincidence of timing. Nope. I think we should keep talking about it. That's my goal. I'm going to keep talking about Tom Brady, the conflict of interest, and the fact that I can't imagine a scenario where he continues to be a Fox broadcaster and the NFL allows him to be because of his role with the Raiders. I'm going to keep talking about it because Don Yee and Tom Brady don't want me to. They somehow want all people who have a microphone just to believe whatever it is they say because they say it. The earth is square. What's the thing that people say? Flat. The earth is flat. All right. I'll take your word for it. We're not going to talk about it. Tom Brady not leaving Fox, his agent tells SBJ. Horse hockey. It's just a matter of how much Fox pays him to not work there anymore. There are people who really try to do business in an undercover way, very sneaky way. One of the great themes of 1,201 episodes of Nothing Personal is me just trying to help you see stories for what they actually are, what I perceive them to be. I'm not right every time, but you can bet your sweet bipsters that when you read that there are multiple sources telling front office sports and multiple people talking about Maverick Carter, who is LeBron James' business manager, looking to start an international basketball league. Do you think that it is a coincidence that soon after a leak of such interest, people are going out of their way, and I mean out of their way, to get quotes, to get quoted, to make sure that social media is clear that, one, LeBron James has nothing to do with this. This is just Maverick Carter as business manager who doesn't do one thing, including going to the restroom without letting LeBron know, but I digress. But LeBron, nothing to do with this. And two, this is not meant to be a competitor to the NBA. I've decided to develop a sports drink, but don't worry, it's not meant to be a competitor to Gatorade. I've really decided to come up with a sports business show, but don't worry, I'm not in competition with the other sports business shows. Don't care. Doing my own thing. As a matter of fact, here's what'll get you off the scent. I'm going to tell front office sports that not only are we not competing with the NBA, we're not even thinking about the NBA. We're trying to do something more like F1. An F1 for basketball. I'm sorry. Here's why I'm laughing. What does LeBron James want more than anything else? If you asked him right now, what would he say? Because he wouldn't say a title with the Lakers. Give him truth serum. LeBron James, what do you want? Wouldn't have anything to do with Bronny. Wouldn't have anything to do with his kids. He would say, the number one thing I want is to own a NBA team. Oh, all right. Where? Well, how about Vegas? His first choice would likely be the Lakers. He'd love to own the Knicks. Maybe the Cavaliers. Maybe the Heat. There are a bunch of cities, a bunch of places that he'd love to be an owner. I don't think that Michael Jordan woke up one day and said, my dream. If I had a dream, my dream would be to own and run the Charlotte Hornets. Well, David, he's connected to Carolina. It wouldn't be Jordan's dream. LeBron James is first choice, and he's made it clear. This is not conjecture. This is not irresponsible journalism. This is him saying he wants to bring a team to Vegas. Meanwhile, there's competition to bring a team to Vegas. Do you think that there's a world where there's a competitive business that started, some sort of startup, and the object of the game is to get the attention of Adam Silver in the NBA, and that some sort of settlement comes to be at one point or another, that either this new international league gets folded into the NBA under the ownership of the NBA, or it gets stopped and dropped altogether, and in return for the business being dropped, that's a successful business with the potential for profit, but of course, always unrealized, that LeBron James gets pole position to Vegas. You think these type of deals are nefarious? They're not. You think these type of deals don't happen? They do. You think that Maverick Carter, just out of nowhere, wants everyone to believe that he had a brilliant idea, and he's parlaying this brilliant idea into this league, and there is no exit strategy. There's no point of it all. Whenever you do anything in business, there is an exit strategy. There's a point to every dollar you invest. There's an object of the game. A brilliant object of this game would be to get LeBron what he wants. That is Maverick Carter's main job, not to start leagues. His main job is to have LeBron as a principal owner following his playing days. Do we think LeBron is going to play another year, another 2 years, another 3 years? He's going to play till they rip the jersey off his back, because at 40 years old, he's a young businessman. He's just getting going into his career, into his life off the court. You need 2 to 3 years of runway to even think about an ownership group in Vegas with the NBA. And this plan by Maverick Carter is simply perfect. So I just want you to take away that when these sort of articles come in front of you and you read about what's happening, just know that there's an underbelly to all of it. Think about it. Yesterday, the NBA announced none of this is a coincidence, that they have an interest in starting a European league. Adam Silver's wanted to expand into Europe forever. Roger Goodell has been trying to get into Europe. Major League Baseball has been trying to get into Europe. Roger Goodell has decided there's no way to have a European division, so he just bolsters his international slate. The Dolphins in Madrid and the Jaguars in London and the Colts in Germany, and on and on and on. All of that is to get a financial footprint in Europe across the pond. Adam Silver, started by David Stern, under the firm grip of David Stern, has been trying to figure out how to get Europe and China. People don't fight over Asia as much because they know that's very much baseball. But baseball, they all fight over everything because everyone's trying to get everywhere and be not just the controller of this country, but be the controller of every country. And if you can't control this country, controlling another country is a good second position to take. If you spoke to the commissioners of baseball and basketball, they would tell you there's nothing they can do in their lifetime to take the pole position away from the NFL in America. However, if you ask them all, they would say, we believe we can have the number one position overseas. So every move that the leagues make is meant to figure out how they can be number one. So NBA, who's wanted to start a European league forever, they know they can't have a European division of the NBA. Same reason, same travel issues. Now his thought is, let's have 10 to 14 separate teams. We can actually put everybody else out of business. When you look at the leagues and associations around the world, what the professional leagues in America are trying to do is similar to the concept in Major League Baseball that Commissioner Manfred has done from the beginning won baseball when he took all the minor leagues and tried to consolidate all of it under one set of powerful eyes. It would be a great scenario for Roger Goodell and the NFL to control all football that's played all across the world and then decide for themselves where there should be teams, where they are profitable, what countries, what cities within those countries. The NBA is doing the same. There are a bunch of professional basketball leagues around the world in many different areas, many different countries. You remember that Kobe Bryant's father played in Italy. You know there's professional basketball in Israel. There are leagues. And what Adam Silver is saying is, here's the plan. If we start a league where we fund 10 to 14 teams and we fund a slate of games and cut deals with arenas in different cities in Europe, we will make it because of the NBA strength of its marketing, their resources. These leagues are like investment funds, like sovereign wealth funds when it comes to investing in other properties. And other properties, when people come up with thoughts, are dying to get their money and their support. When you are a league-sanctioned other league, a league-sanctioned other sport, think WNBA. Forget Caitlin Clark, forget Angel Reese, forget all of it. The WNBA was a league that was supported and continues to be supported by the NBA. If the NBA decided not to support anymore, it would disappear. Poof. And that's not the only league like that. Adam Silver getting his owners to agree to support a European league is nothing short of brilliant because it's the best way to get the continent. Baseball, if they could have started a European league that they could run, have a minor league development system, if they could buy the NPB over in Japan, the Taipei Chinese, believe me, they'd like to own all of it. What you're going to see going forward is consolidation. It's world consolidation, which is the first step to world domination. Because U.S. domination, it's not enough. It doesn't keep moving the valuation needle. It doesn't keep the revenue model moving. All the money that you can make doing all the ancillary stuff that the leagues do gets funneled right back to the league office, gets funneled right back to the teams, increases the bottom line to the teams, and then increases the value of the teams. This is the pipeline of growth. And when you are done mining one area, what do? You pick up your equipment and you mine the next area till it's dry. All right, let's take a break. We come back. I've got a movie I want to review that's very pertinent. And I want to talk about, that John Skipper, the CEO of Meadowlark Media, the former president of ESPN, my host on the Sporting Class. A new episode of the Sporting Class dropped today on Pablo Torre Finds Out with Pablo Torre, myself, and John Skipper. We've told you that John Skipper has a relationship, is a part of Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 women's league that debuts tonight. After the break, I want to get into some detail about some stuff that's going on there. And we'll do all that after the break. Welcome back to this Friday show. There is no show Monday. It is Martin Luther King Day, federal holiday, Inauguration Day, true, College Football Championship Day, true. There will be no live show. We will be back live on Tuesday. On the DraftKings Network, we will show a sit-down at 10 a.m., but at 8 a.m. Eastern on Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, there will not be a show. 3-day weekend for y'all. I'll miss you. I'll get to watch a bunch of movies. I'm flying. I'm going to be on the road starting Tuesday. We will talk about where I am and what I'm doing when I'm there. It's going to be one interesting week of shows next week. I can promise you that. A movie that I watched 2 days ago. What's today? Thursday. So I watched it Tuesday night. Today's Friday, David. Thank you, Coca. the last show of the week. Not good with days. Isn't that weird what kind of things you get from your parents? My dad never knew the day of the week, ever. I don't know. I got his hands and his inability to know the day of the week. Genes, man. So weird. No, not Wranglers. There's a movie called The Order with Jude Law. If you don't know who Jude Law is or Nicholas Hoult, I'm sorry. The Order is a movie about it's Mississippi Burning light. Mississippi Burning is a far better movie with Frances McDormand and Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe. And I encourage you to go see Mississippi Burning. The Order is a movie about a bunch of people who are racist Klansmen. And Nicholas Hoult is the leader of this group of people who are trying to start a war in order to cleanse the United States of everybody but people just like him. And I don't mean just white, because you have to be the religion too. Doesn't want any of the Jews around. Jude Law plays an FBI agent who is sensing that something's going on, and he is trying to stop it from happening. The relationship between Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult, the relationship between commitment to your work and commitment to what's right, the relationship between a man who is and this is based on a true story, a man who is a father and a husband, however philandering he may be, however insane and crazy he may be, however racist he may be. The way you try to humanize someone is you put a kid in their arms and you have them go coochie coochie coo and read The Cat in the Hat on the way to bed. It's the damnedest thing that happens in movies, and maybe it happens in real life. The thought of a hardened criminal, a murderer, a bank robber, a racist, thinking of them doing something that would otherwise be associated with a beautiful moment. A moment of connection with a child. Really, what you're doing is you're ET connecting hatred from one generation to the next. And the picture of the kids at these Klan rallies, at Nicholas Hoult's rallies, it's so unsettling, because the only way that we're going to stop systemic racism, we're not going to change racists into non-racists. Once in a while, you'll be able to convert one or two people. You got to do it from a generational standpoint. You have to stop the kids of racists from being racists. That's the hardest thing to do. That's why it's so important in school to point out why, to get someone to admit and understand that his or her parent is flawed in that way. We all discover that about our parents. We all have warts. We all have flaws. We all have skeletons. But when you first learn that about your parents, it's tough, no matter what age you are. This movie is a movie that is very interesting about the concept of what to do to curb this. And it goes through by telling the story of the Order, the true story of the Order. And you'll watch the movie and say to yourself, Jude Law may have gained some weight and gotten older. Hey, Nicholas Hoult is super creepy when I just want to think of him with warm bodies. And then you'll think to yourself, God, am I uncomfortable watching this? Because is this our world? Is this what we're heading into? Is this where we've been? It's called The Order. It's worth watching. Tonight's the night. I'll talk to John Skipper today and I'll say, are you nervous? And he'll be in Miami and he'll say, I'm not nervous. I don't know if he's going to be in Miami. I don't want to say where people are. But when you're involved in a league that's debuting in an unbelievable way, I want to give some props and talk about Unrivaled. And I want to say that John did not ask me to do this. He doesn't know I'm doing this. He doesn't see our rundown. I'm doing this because whether he was involved or not, this is a story that got my attention. Starting anything is super hard. Whether it's a media company, a sports league, a corner store, it takes money, intestinal fortitude, and some sort of blind willingness to go where no one has gone before and take the chance that you see things differently, but also recognizing that maybe it's not going to work. The way to get Unrivaled in the position it's been is the first thing that you do when you're starting a league, What would you do if you were starting a league? Where do you need to start? What's been the problem with some of these, like the Rocks Football League, whether it's been the USFL, the XFL, all these competitive leagues to the NFL who have not really gotten the cooperation of the NFL, call back to NBA doing its own international league? What's the first thing you need? Talent. Unrivaled started signing very big names to play in their off-season 3-on-3 league. This is the off-season for the WNBA. Unrivaled said, let's start something where we can get and attract the best players. How do we do it? 2 ways. 1, money. 2, no risk. 3, family fun. You say, hey, come on down to Miami in the middle of winter. We're going to pay you more money just to do this than you do by playing a whole season in the WNBA. We're going to make it great and fun for your family. And by the way, it wouldn't surprise me, and it would be smart if you're a startup. We're going to make this an owned and operated league by and amongst players. I don't think that I've seen it reported anywhere that the players have any ownership stakes in Unrivaled. But if you were starting something, you want, sort of like any company where you want employee incentives, you give employees stock, shares of stock, make them feel like they are a part of the success of the company and that they benefit from the success of the company. You give women, players, guaranteed money, the possibility of upside if they show up and they make it successful. You make them care, and you do it in a place that they want to be in. You're not doing it from a sound studio in the middle of a Kvelt. Unrivaled created this amazing studio in Doral, in Miami, in the winter, when it's coincidentally 0 degrees in the Northeast, Midwest, where things in the West are tough, as we know. So you start there. Unrivaled. Check. Then what? Corporate sponsors. Unrivaled has done an unbelievable job of getting corporate support. Truly, one of the ways that they did that is that they found a sport that companies need to have a footprint in. Women's sports, as David Levy, one of the founders of Unrivaled, has said recently, women's sports, this is not just a moment, this is a movement. There are companies who right now need to be associated, want to be associated, and are reallocating dollars meant for male-dominated advertising campaigns or leagues, and they're moving them to women's sports. The WNBA is attempting to take advantage of this, but Unrivaled has found a way to do it even better, even faster. They found levels of corporate sponsors, including a naming rights deal for the sound studio where the games are going to be played. Sounds crazy. Sound studio. Yeah, they built a sound studio. There's only 850 seats. Every seat, everyone who goes there, someone called it Running Rivaled, said it'll be like Broadway on steroids. You're going to see a show. There's cameras in great places, but you've got a view of the players no more than 32 feet away from players. But this is not about the audience who's in person. This is about the audience on TNT and True TV, because Warner Brothers Discovery, in a remarkable media deal, bought the rights to show the entire Unrivaled season, paid a tremendous amount of money to get a footprint, to get a step into this sort of possible brilliant play in women's sports. And what was built by Unrivaled was making it the best TV product it could be. When we build a stadium, we have camera angles that we focus on. We bring our broadcasting partners in, along with the union and MLB, all of their broadcasting people, all of their on-field player reps, etc., because everyone wants to make sure that they're taken care of when a new ballpark is built, and they all have to sign off on things. There's certain rules about where we're going to place cameras, making sure we have a center field camera, first base, third base, behind the plate, making sure we're set for replay, all the different things, making sure we're set for security, that we have cameras in the stands, which we do. Unrivaled said, no, we're not spending that type of money. We're not going to go get a public-private partnership. We're going to do better. We're going to make it so the millions of people watching on TV have the experience that's better than the 850 people who are going to come to the games. We're happy to have a little studio audience the way game shows do, the way talk shows do. You think Live with Kelly and Mark is interested in the 100 people there in the audience? No, they're interested in whether or not they can get 1 million people watching every single day. Angel Reese has been a huge supporter of Unrivaled. She's there and she's tweeting and doing Instagram stories and all sorts of TikToks about the excitement of all of the facilities that are there for the players, how easy it is, how exciting it is. Her view is that this puts pressure on the WNBA to up their game to how the women players get treated. I am awfully excited to watch how this unravels, because Unrivaled is not just trying to be complimentary to the WNBA, which is what they'll say publicly. Unrivaled would like to have no rivals. They would like to build the value of this for themselves, for the players, for the industry, in a way that takes over. That's everybody's goal. Well, it all starts tonight. Nothing personal pick of the day. We had the Thunder -2 over the Cavs. We could have given 19.5 and still won. It was a garbage time win. The Thunder won by 20, but it was a 30-point lead throughout the whole game practically. So we got ourselves back to 500. We are 4-4. What an amazing thing to be. Isn't that? I'm happy to be at 500. No. Let me give you picks for this long weekend. Here we go. Nothing personal pick of the day. Brought to you by David. We've got a big game in Miami tonight. Jimmy Butler's back, baby. Not just the Unrivaled game. The NBA's playing in Miami, and Jimmy Buckets is done with his 7-game suspension. And if Pat Riley doesn't trade him today, spoiler alert, he's not going to. Jimmy Butler is going to be in a Heat uniform playing against the champion Nuggets from 2 years ago. Luckily, Jokic has an elbow sprain and is questionable. Lucky for the Heat. The Heat are actually favored by 1.5 over the Nuggets, and they shouldn't be. The Nuggets +1.5 over the Heat is my play tonight, because the Heat are going to be absolutely flummoxed by Jimmy Butler's existence. Tomorrow we've got 2 games. I'm doing a parlay here. I'm taking the Texans +8.5 over the Chiefs. The Chiefs, when they're forced to play in the afternoon, it's a funny stat. Not ideal when it comes to covering. People are undervaluing Stroud and the Texans. They are a good team. I think the Chiefs will win the game, but I'm taking the Texans in the points. But I'm parlaying it with the Lions at the money line, and we're getting plus money from DraftKings, odds subject to change. Texans +8.5 with the Lions on the money line. That's a parlay for Saturday. Sunday, I'm going to tell you that I've got a funny feeling about the Rams-Eagles game. I think that this will be the Rams who win the game outright, but I don't have the guts. I'm taking the points. Rams +6 at -110 versus the Eagles. And then the Monday pick is Ohio State -8.5 over Notre Dame. This will be the end of Notre Dame's run. It was one hell of a run. The amount of money they've made for themselves, the amount of attention they've gotten for their program, for their coach, Marcus Freeman, all of it, it's outstanding. But when they get on the field against Ohio State, it's a brand new day. I'm surprised the line was as low as 8.5, but we are going to give the points for the championship game on Monday. Those are your picks of the day. I want to talk for a minute about what's going on in Los Angeles again. Couple things of note as the fires, it becomes maybe a story we're not focused on as much. It's not leading off every single broadcast. And I'm guilty of that. There is still tragedy happening and fires burning in Los Angeles. We've got the Super Bowl coming on February 9th. State Farm was doing a Super Bowl ad, and they decided to pull their ad to save the $7.5 million that you'd pay for 30 seconds. And they said they pulled the ad, wait for it, because State Farm agents, and our employees are all focused on helping customers impacted by the Southern California wildfires in the midst of this tragedy. State Farm serves more than 8 million customers in California. It used to be more. State Farm got rid of a bunch of people. It's like trying to find house insurance in Florida is finding fire insurance in California. Insurance companies in a system that is so broken that it will take more than Trump in office, more than Biden in office or leaving office, more than anyone can imagine to fix this problem, because it has been happening for decades. And now it is right in front of us. It is prohibitively expensive to insure the property that you have, which eventually makes you not want to have the property. And all of that has a quashing impact on the economy. When you don't feel like you should be investing in brick and mortar and you don't do it because you're scared and you don't know how to protect it, that's a problem. State Farm trying to convince you that the high road is not to do a commercial and to use that money for claims. Let me explain to you how it works. State Farm has a marketing budget. That marketing budget is separate from their claims department, their claims budget. Totally different. They don't spend the $7.5 million on a Super Bowl ad. Let me tell you, that $7.5 million is not going to you, the person who just lost your house. They're going to fight every claim that you make while giving you quotes that'll say, hey, we have received over 7,400 home and auto claims, and we're putting tens of millions of dollars back into customers' hands. Tens of millions? They collect premiums so fast your head will spin. They pay out claims so slow that your head will turn gray and turn to ash and fall off like that. I don't think I've ever collected from insurance for players for issues with the ballpark without some sort of threat of lawsuit or actual lawsuit. State Farm to tell you, listen, we are a good corporate partner. We are understanding the problems in LA, so much so that we'll give up our Super Bowl spot. What a crock of crap. Here's a better thing. How about using your 30-second Super Bowl ad to have the chairman of State Farm take the camera, look into the camera with the microphone and say, listen, I'm aware that we left a lot of you uninsured over the past year, right before the fire started. We're going to take as much money as we can take without impacting the value that we have to our shareholders and to our corporate executives and the money they make. And we are going to look into every policy that we had on the books a year ago from today. Then we have gone ahead and hired an extra 500 people. I mean, I'm in a dream world now. We are going to make sure that every one of you who filed a claim is contacted so we can get you on the road to some sort of recovery for your life's disruption. How about that for a Super Bowl ad? You got 1 minute of press for pulling your ad and acting all high and mighty. Spend the money that's in your budget, which you're going to spend anyway, on something else to make people feel good about insuring themselves with State Farm without worrying about the fact that they're not going to get paid when they need to. And spend the $7 million and talk to us. Tell us things are going to be better. Nope. Why would State Farm do that? Why would any company do that? It's like I'm living in a dream world. And as a business person, I can tell you the reason I live in that dream world is I can tell you when the business people are making these decisions, it's the furthest thing from their mind to give their customers comfort. They want to make sure they're not losing any future premiums from people who they do business with in places where they feel they can be the most profitable. and LA fires and Florida climate change floods, the flood zones. You think there's a reason why it's prohibitively expensive and you can't find insurance in these places? Because the companies don't want to pay. It makes perfect sense. You think they're the only people interested in just business? We will be back on Tuesday. Please be safe Monday. Contemplate what the holiday is, what the change in government is. Enjoy the football. We'll be back Tuesday live at 8 a.m. It's just business. This is nothing personal.